I'm going to watch Black Widow now. So, yeah, let's go. Okay, just watched Black Widow. Well, yesterday, as you can tell, it's pretty light. So, I went to bed as soon as I got back. So I watched it at 9:30. It didn't start until about 9:45 because of ads and trailers and stuff. Speaking of trailers, there was no Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, which was rumored. But we did get another look at the Shang-Chi trailer, which was just very, very good to see on the big screen. And yeah, can't wait for that. But this is a no spoiler reaction to Black Widow first, and then I'm gonna potentially reveal some spoilers, but I will warn you when I do that. But I will say that my thoughts on Black Widow may influence your experience of watching the movie, because, for example, if I say that I really, really love it, and then you go in there with really high expectations and you don't love it, then you're going to be disappointed. And alternatively, if I say that I really don't like it or didn't like it, you're going to be put off going to watch it. So, be careful of watching this video, but I'm going to give my thoughts on Black Widow. Also, before you click off, if you are going to, because you don't want to hear my thoughts on it, watch the end credits, because there is an end credit scene, and that's the spoilers for now. And yeah, I'm going to talk about it. I said in my news video on Monday, I'm not expecting an Endgame or Infinity War or Ragnarok or Civil War level movie, because, like Captain Marvel, it is the first solo movie of this character, despite it coming so late on. So we should be comparing it to the first solo movies of other characters such as Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, etc., etc. And what I will say is that first time round watching it, I usually enjoy it the second time round anyway, but first time round watching it, I definitely enjoyed it more than Hulk. I definitely enjoyed it more than Iron Man, I would say. A lot of people really, really like Iron Man 1, so that probably won't be the same for most people, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. I much preferred it to Iron Man 2 and 3. It was probably around equal with the first Avenger, but I do really, really like the first Avenger more than most. So again, that probably won't be what most people think. And I liked it more than Thor 1, but it's close because I like Thor 1 more than most people. However, it stomps on Thor the Dark World. It is so much better than the Dark World. The Dark World is terrible in my opinion. So it's better than Thor the Dark World. It's better than Hulk. It's better than Iron Man 2. It's better than Iron Man 3. And yeah, that's just out of those ones. In terms of the Avengers movies, they're probably all better than it. Black Panther's probably better than it. Doctor Strange is probably better than it. Civil War and Ragnarok are probably better than it. Spider-Man Homecoming, I would say it could be around that level, to be honest. Yeah, I think that's a fair comparison. So it's definitely good, but it's not going in my top 5 favourite MCU movies, so I do recommend you go and watch it. So yeah, it served its purpose very, very well. It's introduced us to some fantastic characters. I'm only going to speak about the ones we've seen in the trailer so far. So Yelena, Black Widow's sister, she's a fantastic character. I really don't know how to say this without spoiling it, but the characters we see in the trailer are very, very good. Now, I think I'm going to move on to doing some spoilers now. So Taskmaster, in terms of a villain, I enjoyed watching them fight very much. This isn't spoiling yet, but I enjoyed them fighting very much. What we know about Taskmaster from this movie is that they can copy people's fighting from watching them, and it was so fun watching Taskmaster fight, trying to identify who she's copying at this point. And you could see, because obviously they have a shield, Captain America, they did the Winter Soldier knife flip, which is so sick that they would have Watch the fight between Cap and the Winter Soldier, not even Bucky, the Winter Soldier. What else did they do? They did Black Panther, they have claws. Who else? Hawkeye, they had like a bow and arrow that was looking to be nanotech or something like that because it kind of came out of nowhere. I could be completely wrong, but you never know. So yeah, Hawkeye, Captain America, Black Panther, the Winter Soldier, and they copied Black Widow a little bit because obviously they were fighting Black Widow. And now to actually spoil it a little bit, so obviously spoiler warning here. It was a girl, specifically the owner of the Red Room's daughter. We found out what happened in Budapest, as Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow points out. It's Budapest, not Budapest. And what actually happened, it was Black Widow's last mission to prove herself to S.H.I.E.L.D., and she bombed the guy that owns the Red Room's building and thought that she killed his daughter. The daughter did not die and was turned into Taskmaster. So she doesn't have any superpowers. She uses technology to copy people's abilities, and then obviously her suit has adaptations to be able to copy people's abilities, such as having a knife available, such as having claws available, such as having a shield, such as having a bow and arrow available, etc., etc. So, if I'm being honest, what I think about Taskmaster as the villain, yeah, alright, it definitely made sense that it was the guy's daughter, and I thought it was a cool reveal. However, I don't know, it just felt a little bit underwhelming. I thought they were going to be a bit of a cooler character, and obviously they had a bit of a redemption, which was predictable. I wish didn't happen because Taskmaster had a lot of potential as a villain. If they escaped and they kept progressing and copying more people's abilities and got stronger and stronger, I think that would have been great. But it was a great storyline for the person that Black Widow bombed. Ended up turning back good and forgiving her, and it all turned out well. I thought it was a great story to make that the thing, but I would have preferred it if it was literally just I don't know, some guy underneath or girl, it doesn't really matter, that was fully evil, brainwashed, or maybe even a pure robot. I thought it was a robot for a lot of the film, and I wouldn't have minded that. But definitely not a bad villain. We've had much worse, and I'm excited to see their future in the MCU, to be honest, because as much as I've just talked badly about them, they have a lot of potential as a hero now, which is very cool to see, assuming that they keep their suit and keep their way of fighting as copying who they've watched before. Because if they just become a normal assassin or fighter Black Widow is herself, or Yelena, then that's not too interesting. But if they keep their suit and all their tech and everything like that, I'm very, very excited to see how they fit into the future of the MCU. I think that would be great. But that is all for Taskmaster. Served their purpose. I'm excited for the future of them in the MCU. But had I been given the chance, I would have written them a little differently. But I'm not saying that I should be hired. But if you're watching, I should be. So the action in this movie was very, very good. All of the fight scenes were fantastic in my opinion. The prison escape was fantastic, and yeah, it was very, very good. However, it felt a bit long, and a lot could have been compressed and made it an overall much better movie. Everything that happened was good, but some scenes were dragged on for too long, and if it was just cut down 15 minutes, honestly, it would be such a better movie. But that doesn't make it bad at all. And in most of the movies that I do really enjoy, I always say that I wish that these scenes were longer, because I want to know as much as possible about these characters. So seeing their longer interactions helps me learn more about them. So I don't mind it at all. But in terms of just a pure movie, it would have been better if it was compressed a little bit more. Seeing the past of Natasha Romanoff, or Black Widow, I think they played that story perfectly. Her past, I couldn't have written a better story myself, or I don't think anyone could have written a better story for her past and her upbringing as a child, and then obviously kind of ditched and turned into this assassin. I think they played that fantastically. The events of Budapest with Clint Barton as well. I think they've written that story fantastically for this movie, so I'm so happy with that. And yeah, I really liked how this movie filled her story from Civil War to Infinity War. As much as I've just talked badly about it a little bit, I haven't talked badly at all about how they handled her as a character. I think it was really good, and I'm very happy with her character between Civil War and Infinity War following this movie, and showing how she met up with Steve again. And it proves that Civil War, when Captain America goes to the raft and breaks the people out, like Sam, Ant-Man, Clint Barton, etc., there was a time period between the end of Civil War and that scene, because the whole of Black Widow, they are still in the rafts, which I think is really cool, and it's a really good way to I think it was a really good way to play it, and it just shows what Black Widow was doing before she met up with Steve, and it shows that she went off on her own before she went back with Steve. And like I said, I think they handled her character in this time period very well, and I'm so happy with it. Now, I also want to say that Yelena has such a big future in the MCU, more than Taskmaster for me, especially when we see that end credit scene. I'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, she was a fantastic character in this movie. It was as much her movie as it was Black Widow's movie, which a lot of people aren't too happy about, but I don't mind at all. You don't see anyone complaining about Civil War being partly Iron Man's movie or being basically an Avengers movie instead. No one complains about that, so I'm very happy with this, and I can't wait for her future in the MCU. Now, the other characters, the fake mum and dad, I'm so sorry, I forget what the dad's title was, the Red something. I think he has a lot of potential as well, and so does the mum. I'm not really sure where they fit in, but I do think they have a lot of potential. Obviously, he is a super soldier, she is a scientist, and she is given the role of recreating or reproducing, mass producing this antidote to the brainwashing that all of the widows have had. So I hope we do see some kind of project where those two and Yelena go and save all the widows in the future. There isn't any project that's announced at the moment where I can see that happening, but I do hope it does happen. So yeah, this movie has set up so many projects so well, ones that are already announced, which I'll speak about in a minute, and new ones. So yeah, it's just fantastic. For the exact reason that I love Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's an action movie within Marvel. It doesn't have too many superpowers, but it does have super soldiers. I just loved it. It was really good. Now, if we are going to speak about that end credit scene, I advise that if you haven't watched the end credit scene when you went to the cinema, or however you watched it, that you do click off now, but I'm going to talk about it now. Valentina, whatever her name is, Val, we'll call her Val. She doesn't like being called Val, but I don't like her, so that's fine. From The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, who is working with John Walker, approached Yelena at Black Widow's grave, so this is after Endgame, and set her the target of Clint Barton, blaming him for her death, which I think is very interesting, because obviously no one was there on Vormir, so some people potentially would blame Clint. I don't think she does think it's Clint, talking about Val here. I don't think that she believes it's Clint, but she wants someone else to believe it's Clint, and therefore go and kill Clint. Val is meant to be setting up the Dark Avengers or something, or be a part of the making of the Thunderbolts with Thunderbolt Ross or something along those lines. So if that's really going to be the case, which it's looking like it's going to be, and they do end up fighting the Avengers, it's looking like she's trying to get a head start before they even fight by setting a new one of her recruits, being Yelena, up to kill one of the Avengers. So I think this is definitely going to be the plot of the Hawkeye series, where Kate Bishop and Clint Barton have to fight Yelena or escape Yelena, and then I think it's pretty obvious that Yelena's not going to end up killing either of them. Maybe Clint dies, I don't know, but I don't think she's going to kill either of them. I think Clint's going to somehow tell her that he isn't the one responsible for her death, and she's going to realize that she's been set up and that he isn't in the wrong, and she's not going to end up joining Val's team, and she's going to be like one of the good guys, but basically the future Black Widow of the MCU. Now that the real Black Widow, Natasha Romanoff, has died, she's basically going to like fill her role in the Avengers. But yeah, I can't wait for that series, because I think the storyline of Yelena like showing her dark side, going after Clint, and then like turning on Val and fighting for good will be very, very interesting. But that's basically all I want to talk about. That is my thoughts on Black Widow and what it sets up in the future and everything else. So yeah, let me know what you thought about Black Widow. I'm assuming you've watched the movie if you're watching this video. If not, then I don't really know why you're here, unless you're not planning on watching it anytime soon, which in that case is fair enough. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you so much for 7,500 subscribers. I asked last week to get that by Friday, and it's Thursday, so you've smashed that. Thank you so much. And yeah, I can't wait for Bad Batch tomorrow. I'm going to do a reaction if it is a good episode. Well, not a reaction, more like my thoughts after watching it, which is what I normally do. But yeah, thank you for watching. In a bit.